October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a disease that accounts for about 30% of all new cancer cases in women across the country. 1 in 8 women will develop mass invasive breast cancer in their lifetimes. One of those diagnosed this year, my friend and former colleague, Katie Couric, former co-host, of course, of Today on NBC. In a personal essay on her website, Couric wrote, on June 21st, 2022 was the first day of summer, my 8th wedding anniversary, and the day I found out I had breast cancer. Joining us now is Katie Couric, a longtime advocate for cancer screening, of course, and now a cancer survivor herself. Hey, Katie. It's great to see you.
Hey, Andrea, I'm so glad to see you. And you sound like you have the same cold I have.
Well, it's just sitting outside in Pittsburgh for 4 hours last week, anchoring outside. Nothing serious. But so how are you feeling? Talk to me about it.
I'm feeling great. Honestly, I'm feeling really well. This all happened last June, as you just mentioned. I had a lumpectomy on July 14th. I had radiation, really for mostly the month of September, 15 rounds of radiation. And I'm feeling really well. I need to get on aromatase inhibitors, which I'll be doing for 5 years, which I'm sort of dreading, but I'm doing a lot of research on. And my prognosis is excellent. You know, having dealt with cancer in my family with my husband, Jay, who, of course, you knew, and my sister, Emily, they were both diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and pancreatic cancer, respectively. So I understand the difference between a very bleak prognosis and a very good one. So I feel incredibly fortunate. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, Andrea, is I just want to make sure that women get screened, because when these cancers, as you well know, are detected early, that's when they're the most treatable, and you can have a really favorable prognosis.
Well, that was my experience as well, you know, many, 11, 12 years ago now. And I was on the aromatase inhibitor, and it's not fun, but it's not awful. So we can talk about that.
Yeah,
it's nothing to be fearful of.
Call me.
I will. And had surgery as well. But so one of the problems was you missed your mammogram, as many people did, by 6 months because of COVID. And then you went for the checkup. And fortunately, I guess I'm hoping that what happened was that you had a digital mammogram, because when you have dense breasts, that is how many of these mammograms don't catch tumors, correct?
So I had a 3D mammogram, which is much better than a standard mammogram. Many facilities now offer 3D mammography, but for the past 10 years or so, or even longer, I have also been getting what is called a breast ultrasound, which is really the same ultrasound you get if you're pregnant, but it's done on your breast and it's no radiation. But for women with dense breasts, which is 45% of all women 40 and over, it is a really good additional screening, because as my breast radiologist said, Susan Drossman here in New York City, when you have dense breasts, really finding a tumor on a mammogram is often like trying to find a snowball against a field of snow, with that as the backdrop. In other words, they both come out as sort of white in the mammogram. And you can find some, but breast ultrasounds are really good additional screening for women who have dense breasts. But there are two problems, Andrea. One, a lot of women don't even know they have dense breasts. 38 states require doctors to notify patients, but they don't really know what to do with that information. And two, insurance often doesn't cover additional screening in the form of a breast ultrasound or an MRI or a fast MRI, which is a truncated MRI that's being tested across the country. So it's really important for women to be their own advocates, to find out, A, if they have dense breasts, what does that mean? What additional screening might they need to do? And then try to get their insurance companies to cover that additional screening. And that's something that I'm working with a lot of people in Washington on kind of trying to understand that policy and ways that we might be able to improve it.
Well, the only good news out of all of this is that you are such a force for good and for change. We've seen it with Stand Up to Cancer, with all you've done over the years on colon cancer, your on-camera colonoscopy on the Today program, and everything you've done in public education has been so valuable that at least this is another, the Couric factor is going to help so many women around the country.
I hope so. They say it's the worst club with the best members. Amy Klobuchar called me this weekend, and I know you know that Senator Klobuchar had experienced this about a year ago. But, I think that preventative health is so important. Catching cancer early is really better in the long run in terms of cost-benefit analysis. And I think when the medical establishment sometimes looks at these things, they don't want to overreact to false positives. They don't want the cost involved to training technicians or even the time doctors have to spend. But it's so critically important. So I just want women to ask, do I have dense breasts? What does that mean? And what do I need to do to protect myself? And unfortunately, right now, often only women of means can afford that additional testing. So we need to really address health disparities and make sure that everyone has access to some of this life-saving technology.
Thank you, Katie. It's great to see you.